What's going on, guys? So if you've been keeping up with my channel, you know I've done a few customs with this CTToys Black Suit Spider-Man and their other Spider-Men. And I really like doing customs with these. Like, they turn out really well, and for what, a quarter of the price, you can have something that looks and feels mostly like a Mafex. They're definitely not a Mafex, but they feel close enough, and for customs, of course, they're easy enough to get these versus spending $125 on the real version of this. I think that's what's going for right now. But the one thing that keeps me from doing more of these is that, especially like the Black Suit Spider-Man, has a lot of sculpted details, and that works well for something like this, like if I'm just trying to make another Spider-Man. But he has a lot of details, the Black Suit, that I have to sand off before I try to do any other logos or anything like that. And also, just having to sculpt, like Superior Spider-Man here, I had to sculpt all of this detail into the actual figure. And one mess up there just ruins the whole thing. So it just takes a lot of time to really get one completely done. What I wanted to do to kind of fix that is I wanted to make a base for him that I could just use to just put logos on, or 3D model logos on, and make it way easier to actually to make customs on this body without having to do too many changes. So just using this base body and some 3D printed parts, I'm able to make a lot of customs way quicker than having to sculpt that or order this kit from somebody else. So I've started just making customs pretty quickly on that body, actually. I just finished these Invincible customs. All of these kits are available on my my Cults 3D and my CG Trader. So if you want to get these, if you see something you like here so far, and I'm gonna have way more in the future. This is just kind of me working through some parts and trying to get better at sculpting. But all of these parts are sculpted by me in Blender. So I'm trying to do this all on my own without having like redirect people to buy other parts to go with this, especially these head sculpts. I haven't done too many human head sculpts myself, and so trying to learn how to do this has been pretty difficult, but we're getting through it. But so these are all based on the CTToys Spider-Man body. Like, it's the same body, but I'm able to, now that I have a model for the body, I'm able to come through and just put logos on the chest and the abs and the forearms and do some changes with the shins and just print out a kit, pop it onto that body, and have a full custom. So later on in the video, I'll show you how to actually assemble one of these and how easy it is. But for right now, I'm just going to go through kind of the whole process here. So for Invincible, like I said, it's just this is a 3D printed chest, 3D printed ab piece, 3D printed forearms, and 3D printed shins. Another kind of advantage to making these kits myself is I was able to kind of change the height with these guys. So, you know, with the regular CTToys Spider-Man, he's quite a bit shorter than the genuine Mafex, but this is a genuine Black Suit Spider-Man Mafex. I got this guy really cheap, actually. It was broken, and I fixed it. Well, I say broken. His ab was too tight, so I just had to put some oil in there. But you can see that they're almost the exact same height. I think the CT is just maybe a little bit shorter still, but that kind of neck joint I put in there, I think I put it too low. But you can see it's still pretty much the same height. And so I was able to extend these shins a little bit, and then extend this ab piece a little bit as well, so it doesn't look, it still looks proportional while also being a little bit taller. I'll go over paints real quickly, because I know a bunch of people usually ask that. This one, I didn't have to paint the arm. Well, I painted the lower arms just black right there, and it matched up. This one, this is unpainted, these are unpainted, that's unpainted. Those are all from the CTToys. And then the yellow, I was using, what's this, Vallejo Moon Yellow. I just saw this at the store, and I thought it looked like a pretty nice yellow color, so I used that for the arms and the logo and the head and everything. The skin tone is just Vallejo basic skin. I didn't do any kind of special washes or anything. I just kind of kept it basic. And the lips were just that mixed in with a little bit of a dark brown, just barely a little bit of dark brown and some red, and just like a thin wash. The eyes are this Koroks white from Citadel. I ran out of my usual whites, and so I had to use that instead of what I would usually just paint them regular white. Then I clear coated everything with Mr. Hobby's Super Clear Matte. The eyes I hit with a gloss coat of Vallejo gloss varnish. The blue was a Vallejo light blue or something. This one was the Vallejo magic blue for him, and it was the same thing, the black, the skin tones, everything like that. I didn't make any hands for these guys. People have asked for bigger hands, but there's a bunch of options for bigger hands for the Mafex figures on a CG Trader. And the black suit Spider-Man hands work out well enough that sculpt line for the squares are shallow enough that you can just a couple of coats of paint really just clears it up. The joint rub on these isn't too bad. I will say the 3D printed kits, they do like to rub right here on the top of the back. I would bring that in more, but then it's going to create a bigger gap. But I might look at trying to update that in the future. And they also rub pretty solid, like right here on the sides. So I would just use some 320 grit sandpaper before you do any kind of assembly, and assemble those two places on the abs. You can just sand the whole abs to give it a nice texture for the paint to actually grip onto. The joints are like similar size to the Mafex, and so the holes are shrunk down because they're smaller than the Mafex, and so these rub more than a normal Mafex would. So if you're trying to paint something like this, where you're repainting these red, I would try to match the base body up to the color that it's gonna be. You know, so for him, I would use a Scarlet Spider or something, so that way it's red, so if it does rub, it's still red underneath. These ones are easy enough because they're black, but you can see the worst part about rub for these guys are the ankle pegs and the wrist pegs. I've tried sanding those down and painting those, and just doesn't matter. It rubs regardless. You need to do a lot of sanding to get it to actually work, so I've kind of just given up on cleaning those up. Luckily with him, they're black, so it doesn't really matter. This guy, though, it is kind of annoying seeing that. I will go into also the Iron Spider. I wanted to make a video on this originally, but it just, you can see he's rubbing too right there. I sanded those forever too, and he's still rubbing. I don't know what to, I guess I'll have to try some different techniques to keep that from happening. But I wanted to make a video on this, but I tried some new paint techniques for him, and it just did not go well at all. He looks okay now. If you look really close, the gold is kind of splotchy, but I tried to paint it silver and then use some alcohol dyes to get that red as shiny as possible and metallic looking. And those alcohol dyes would not, they just kept, I guess, bleeding through the clear coat. And so every time that I would clear coat him, the gold would just seem to wash away. And so it would leave a little bit of gold, and I'd repaint it, do it again, it'd leave a little bit of gold until about 5 coats later, or 3 attempts later, probably more than 5 coats, I finally have some gold that looks decent. So I'm leaving it there. But if I come back to do this guy later, I'll try something different and let you guys know. But also for this guy, I made some Waldos. They just aren't great. And like I said, I'm selling a bunch of these, or I'm selling all of the kits I have so far, and I'll sell the Waldos if you want to buy them, but I don't think they're worth it buying prints. If you have a printer at home and you want to print them, that's fine. Like, you can do whatever you want with that, and you can tighten up joints or whatever, but I haven't been able to find just good Waldos for him, and especially like 3D printing the Waldos, once those fall or something, they're broken. There's nothing really you can do about that. So these ones that I'm using on him right now are some knockoff Amazing Yamaguchi ones, and I like them well enough. They're not great. He's a very annoying to try to pose. I do like, for my Superior Spider-Man, I just use the Marvel Legends ones, which don't really have as much articulation as I would like, but that just kind of holds its pose a lot better. These ones they look good, they're just very annoying to pose around. But like I said, I 3D printed some. On most of my pictures on Instagram, you'll see the 3D printed ones because I just wanted to give a good visual of what those actually looked like. But they kind of had the same kind of articulation points as this. And these ball joints, I'll have them linked below. You can get them. The ball joints are like $5 a pack on AliExpress or eBay or something. And you just need 2 packs to make all 3 Waldos. But like I said, I don't really like these a whole lot. These ball joints aren't perfect. I don't think I've found any ball joints that I just absolutely love to use for something like Waldos, because these have a lot of weight, they have a lot of weight just kind of bending towards the front, and so over time, naturally, they'll just slowly start to droop, and then these ball joints will slowly start to loosen up, and so it's kind of a lose-lose. What I would recommend is trying to get a knockoff Amazing Yamaguchi. I don't know if they have any currently that I've seen on AliExpress, but like I said, 3D printing a whole set of these takes up a whole build plate, so it's gonna cost like $30. I'm gonna have to charge like $30 to do a whole build plate of just these, and for that price, you can go buy the Mafex Superior Spider-Man and just steal his and repaint them for like, I think he's $35, $40. So extra $10, you have some that are assembled that are gonna last. So I wouldn't buy these from me, but if you really want to, I'll sell them to you. But I just recommend trying to find an alternative on AliExpress or eBay or something like that. Some kind of knockoff that you don't really have to paint or anything. They're just ready to go. So I think that's it with the kits. I'll answer questions about any of them. If you have some, just hit me on Instagram. I try to reply to all the comments. And I have a lot of plans with these in the future. I have a bunch of kits I've started working on, but I had to kind of take a pause because a lot of people were asking me to print these for them and sell them prints. And I just kept putting it off, and so finally I'm just focused on that right now, but I still have designs I'm working out. All right, let's do a assembly. I think I've been rambling for quite a while now, so. Okay, this is one of my first like completed versions of this kit, so these parts might fit a little bit differently than they currently do, but it's around the same. I mean, they go together the exact same way. So I'm gonna get that CTToys Spider-Man all taken apart or out of the box, and then I'm gonna move the camera and I'll show you how to assemble these. It's really easy. I just had a lot of questions about it, and I know it looks kind of confusing, but I'll try to show as best I can how to do this pretty easily. We'll start with it. Number one, my audio is gonna be awful. I'm not bringing my mic into the kitchen, so I heated up this water. I usually fill up like a large coffee mug with, not completely full because you need room for this guy to go in, but I usually heat it up for 2.5 minutes. A bunch of people always get stressed. They're like, you're gonna melt the plastic or something like that, but I've done this for every action figure line that I collect and customize, and I've never melted anything. None of these have ever been damaged from hot water. So I'm not saying it can never happen, but I've just never seen it happen. So don't believe those people freaking out online. It's fine. Anyways, the first thing I'm gonna do, this guy is straight out of the box. I haven't done anything to him yet. Before I put him in the water though, I like to just try to pop off all of the pieces I can. That way I can actually get these to really soak. The main reason I use a hot water versus a hair dryer is that with hot water, you just get a nice even heat all around. And so the parts seem to come off a lot easier that way. Hair dryer, you might have to go back and forth trying to get it apart, but with the hot water, it always works out a lot better for stuff like this. So all these pieces come off fairly easily. These thighs, I've noticed they've gotten tighter over time. So sometimes they don't pop off and sometimes they do. It just kind of depends on how I guess the guy at the factory is feeling. It's nice when they do pop off though, because I don't really want to heat this up. This is glued on at the bottom with just like one drop of glue right there. And so this middle part comes out pretty easily. And it's kind of annoying to try to get it to glue back on. I have to wait for it to dry and everything like that. So we got the chest, waist. I can pop these feet off. The two kind of tools you'll really need for this is a sharp X-Acto knife. Doesn't have to be anything crazy, but sharper is easier. And then some needle nose pliers, or just something that kind of has some width to it at the end that's not necessarily sharp, because like with these shoulder, it's a lot easier just kind of wedge this into the actual shoulder and push it upward. That helps it pop out a lot easier. So you don't want something too sharp, you're gonna leave a hole in there. So something with a nice flat top. Just get a pair of needle nose pliers. You can go to Harbor Freight and get them for like $5. So it's nice to have these. I've had these for literally like 10 years. The neck is also very annoying to get off. It does help a lot to kind of heat it up, but I like to try to take my fingernail or something and get it in that gap there and kind of just pull it towards you, and it helps it pop off a lot easier. But these, you might have to heat them up. It just kind of depends on, like I said, how the person at the factory was feeling that day. So the shoulders, the diaper piece, the neck, those are all good. They don't need to be heated. The hands, the feet, or all this stuff is good. I'm not gonna touch any of that. Arms can go in there. The legs can go in there. And then the ab and the chest into the hot water. So like I was saying with the hot water though, it is good with figures you buy. With printed parts, mine work fine in hot water. I've never had an issue with my prints. I have bought kits from other people and the hot water makes them separate if the layers aren't cured properly. And so it's kind of just a case-by-case basis. If you buy from me, they're not gonna get messed up by hot water. Like I said, 2.5 minutes. Anything over that, you're on your own. 2.5 minutes, hot water, you're good. So I will need to heat up these parts. This chest does not need to be heated. This should be fine the way it is. Also, the print quality is not great on this, but like I said, this is one of the earlier versions, so. The waist piece might not and might need to, dependent on what version it is. I would heat it up to be safe, because these are the same size holes in the top and the bottom, and it's the same size pegs, but for some reason this bottom one is always really tight. I think it's because there's just more material right there, kind of squeezing it, but the top one always just fits in loose. So I need to revisit that, but I mean, it's not a big deal. It's actually kind of nice that this squeezes in so tightly because you don't have to put any glue in there. So if I ever want to come back and change it, I'm not forced to try to cut that out or anything. I can just heat it up and pop it out. Make sure you get a towel or a rag or something, because it's gonna be really hot when you pull it out. So for the legs, ankles are pretty simple. I just grab them right there at the peg and they just pop off just like that. And then we're gonna wanna remove the shin. If you don't mind the height of the CTToys, if you wanna keep that height, you can skip this step unless you're doing something like Invincible or the Iron Spider. But like Batman Beyond, if you don't mind the height, you can just leave this leg in and it's no problem. I extended it's just a little bit longer. I tried to add some height throughout the kit, so that way one part doesn't look that unnatural, or the proportions don't get messed up that much. They're just a little bit different. And keep that knee in there, so that's good. That leg is good. Now the other one, same thing, just grab the ankle peg at the end there, pop it out, and then the actual shin. Sometimes that knee joint comes with it. I just take my pliers and grab it right there at that metal peg, and you can just pop it out pretty easily, and then pop it back into the thigh. Just like that. It's very hard to tell which way the knees go. It's not that big of a deal if they get mixed up, but it is just kind of annoying. Also, I think for these CTToys ones, I don't know for sure with the Mafex, but these metal pegs, there's a divot on the inside of the leg, and on the outside it's flat. So that might help too. Just try not to mix up your parts and that'll help a lot. But if you do, like me, just get it all mixed up all the time, it is kind of annoying to try to get it back to where it needs to be. So same thing with the arms. These, yeah, the pliers make it way easier to just kind of grab and pull. And then the forearms just pop out just like the legs. And then you should be all good there. Same thing with this one. Wrist peg out. You want to be really careful with these wrists and ankles too, because you can see how thin it is on that very base. And so if you don't have the water hot enough and you try to pull this with pliers, you could just rip that right off. So be really careful with that. Make sure your water's hot enough. I want to show something too. Sometimes when you go to pull this arm apart, the shoulder comes off instead. I did that on purpose, but and the bicep comes out. So with this, you can see it has kind of a little a little rectangle type shape here. And you just pop the bicep back on there. And then you want that bicep to be covering up that peg completely. And then this one, this is 2 pieces. There's the actual shoulder articulation, and this is kind of just like a hollow piece. So this only bends one way. And so you want to make sure that way it bends, because if you try to bend it the other way, it kind of hits a kick right there and it won't go any further back. So make sure the part that actually bends, make sure that's facing the inside. And then once you have that fully in there, I like to push it towards the top like that. And then you can plug it through that hole, and then you want to push it on until there's like a snap. You can hear it pop in. Hang on. You hear that? I don't know if it showed up that well, or if you can hear it that well, but you'll hear it actually pop in. Sometimes I get these back together and I think it's all good, and I go to move the arm later and it just pops right off. So you want to make sure it actually pops in. But just be mindful when you're taking these apart, and it's pretty easy to kind of see how they go back together. It's just, I've done this quite a few times now, so it's just, I think I have the whole articulation memorized for these at least. So I'm gonna reheat that water since I've been yapping so I can actually get these pieces done. Don't heat up water with parts inside of there. I've done that a few times by accident and it hasn't ever ruined anything, but that would probably be a really easy way to actually melt your parts. So make sure you get all your parts out before you try to reheat any water. And then I'm gonna put this in there for probably 2 minutes. I don't want it to get too hot. So I'll put it in there for about 2 minutes and then we'll come back to it. Now I can drop these pieces back in. And also, while I'm doing this as well, I like to do the heads too. It just makes it easier. They have those ball sockets in there and they're pretty easy to get out. So I like to take, since the Black Suit Spider-Man comes with 3 heads, I take all of those ball joints. And then whenever with my custom kits, I actually try to put a cutout that's about the same size. It's a little bit bigger, just because I like to give people a little bit of wiggle room to actually glue it in. But you can take these joints out of these heads, glue them into these heads, and then you can just have the heads actually snap on without having to use any blue tack or anything. I hate using blue tack when I don't have to. So we're gonna drop those in as well, and we can start cutting these. Now, luckily I haven't cut myself yet doing this, but knock on wood for me. The easiest way I found to actually cut these, make sure your X-Acto knife is pretty sharp. It doesn't have to be the sharpest thing in the world, but I just lay it flat on the table and then just the plastic is super soft. So you can just take it and just cut a straight line down. You can do the front or the back. I just do the front because it's shorter, but if you do the back, it's easier to kind of just glue it back shut if you ever want to reuse this chest for anything. But I have like a dozen of these at this point, so I'm not really too worried about having to trash this one. But you want to make sure that's pretty deep. A few swipes will be good just to make sure you get through it, and then you can actually kind of pry this apart. Once again, it's up to the person at the factory's discretion about how easy this actually comes apart, but it seems like that front is glued on a lot better than the back usually is. So I'm gonna cut this up the back too. Just make sure your fingers aren't in the way, and you should be good to go. Probably put a cutting board down. Okay, once you have that separated, it's just a little bit of glue on there. You can pull that off and then kind of separate it from the front. Oh geez, this one really got glued on there really well. All right, that guy's destroyed. But this is the whole like center articulation. There's no other plugins in the chest actually. It's just like a hole cut for this to fit into. So this is what makes it so easy to actually just swap over, is this being included in there. And you can see the arms plug in there, head, and the body. So with the chest piece, you don't have to do any heat with this guy. You can just take this piece. You can see there's a little, like, a part that's protruding a little bit. That's a little bit smaller. That lines up with that front piece. And so that side's the front. And you just slide it in there. And it should fit pretty snug. If you want to, you can add a little bit of glue to the front and back when you go to put this together. But I find that not doing that, just leaving it in like a dry fit, helps whenever you go to move the shoulders. This kind of goes up and down a little bit, and it allows you to get a little bit more range and not have to worry as much about paint rub. So it is nice to leave that unglued, but if you're doing something like the Iron Spider, I would suggest gluing it, since there's so much weight coming off his back. It helps to glue it, but something basic like this, you don't really have to glue that. That one's all done. Now we can take out the ab piece. This is the hardest one to actually cut, just because it's kind of deep in there, but it's not really that difficult. Same thing, just kind of lay it flat, keep your fingers out of the way, and I like to start in the middle and just kind of like slice it like that. Like cut downward more so. You can feel when you hit that actual joint. Then you take your needle nose pliers and just kind of wedge it right there, and then boom, you just pop that right out. For the other side, it's a little bit more difficult, but just because there's a gap of plastic there, so it's a little bit softer to actually cut through. So really just take your time there and be really safe. Always be safe when you're using an X-Acto knife, because it hurts. Same thing though, once you get a pretty deep cut, you can just pop that right out. And then this can be trashed as well. I mean, you can re-glue that back. You put a little glue there and squeeze it, and it'll look like you never did anything, but I have a million of those. So these two joints are the exact same size out of the ab piece, so you don't really have to worry about mixing those up at all. And like I said, with the new one, the top joint fits in pretty easily. You just do a little push, and it's, once you can't push it further down, that's where it's supposed to be. And you can just pop that onto there at this point. Well, first, sometimes the bottom joint's tight and sometimes it's not. So let's see how this one goes. Okay, that one just popped in. So I think it's once I start adding actual details to it, it makes this a little bit harder to actually pop in. Maybe you might, I don't know. But if that doesn't pop in super easily, heat this guy up and then pop it in, and it fits in fine. But once you get that done, you can pop the ab piece in, and that's that torso fully assembled. Now for the heads, it's more of the same. This one's just a little bit trickier of a cut because you have less surface area, but you can just slice down the back of the head. A little bit less flat surface area, I should say. Kind of helps to press downward, so that way you're not gonna slip and cut your finger. But these probably should have been heated up again. But you can see there's that joint, and you just kind of pop it out. These joints are smaller than the waist joints. So if you're doing all of this at once, make sure you pay attention to the sizes when you go to assemble things. But it's kind of easy to tell, because if you try to pop one of these into the actual ab piece, it's gonna be super loose, and you're gonna know, like, that's probably too small. So make sure you keep the head joints separate from the actual ab joints, and you should be fine. But yeah, let me cut all three of those, and then we'll do assembly. Okay, so I cut all those pegs free. Now we can go ahead and heat these pieces up and fit them together. Like I said, this is an earlier version of the kit. I just kept printed because I knew I was gonna make this video eventually. And so if this doesn't fit together perfectly, it's probably been updated by now. Okay, that eventually went in. Sometimes these are a little bit tight though. Like if you pop this diaper piece on and it's squeaking real bad, go ahead and heat up that ab piece, because you don't want to break any of the articulation or anything. And that eventually fit together, so it should be fine. I think I've improved it over time, especially these ankles. The early version of these ankles, these pegs, were in there too, it was too tight and it was snapping the pegs apart right here. So if you notice it's not really articulating as well as it should, just reheat the whole thing and you should be fine. But this, you can see, for the same with the ankle pegs and the wrist pegs, there's one side that's just completely a cylinder, just like a plain cylinder kind of. There's no kind of divots or anything. And there's one side that has like a mushroom top to it. The mushroom top side goes into the body. So let's see if I have to reheat that. Yeah. And so I'm gonna try to be careful when plugging these in. But you just push that in until it doesn't push in anymore. Then you should be good. Pretty easy. Then you take the corresponding thigh. So this one curves outwards, so that means it is the right. So I'll grab the right leg. And then you can push that peg all the way down in there. Like I said, if this gives you trouble, reheat this. Don't try to force it. You will break. The pegs are pretty fragile on these, so those will break. But you want to push this until those pins are completely covered. Then you'll know you're in a good spot. So if the pins are still showing once you push this all the way to in, then it's not going deep enough. Another kind of issue I have with 3D printing these is these pegs are so small. The hole for them is so small that resin likes to get trapped in that hole. I've been taking a tiny paintbrush and just kind of dipping it in alcohol and then using that to kind of clean out the peg holes a little bit better. But sometimes these might be a little bit finicky getting together, but I'll try my hardest to get them all cleaned out if you're buying them from me. And if you're printing your own, just make sure you clean out those peg holes really well. This one, boom, covered up those pegs, and then the ankle should pop right in. So now you can pull the legs back on. Boom. Then you pop the feet back on. There's the legs all done. Same thing with the forearms though. You can see this one curves. It curves towards the left. Yeah, it's facing that way. You can see which way it curves though. So that is the right arm. You take the right arm and pop that in. So I got the left arm. Just take that peg, push it in there until that pin is completely covered, just like that. And then you can take your wrist and pop those all the way down in. Just push them until they can't go in anymore, and you should be good. Now I can pop the hand back on. Boom. Let's see if this one will pop on. Okay, yeah, the wrists are a little bit loose. Same thing as the ankles, except for more so with the wrist because the pegs are even smaller. These are kind of loose, but I would rather them be loose and pop out sometimes when you're trying to switch hands versus being too tight and snapping, you know? Especially over time, the resin likes to shrink a little bit as time goes on, so it is nice to just not have to worry about that snapping at any point. But that's the arms all done. So the last things to do, pop the neck on. Do the neck last because this thing is annoying to try to get back off. So make sure to, I'm gonna do it right now though because I want to show the shoulders, but it just pops back in like that and then you should be all good there. Last thing I wanted to show off though is the shoulders. So the shoulders are stock on most of the kits, but with the Iron Spider kit, I try to add a little bit of details on there to make paint a little bit easier. And so you do have to switch out these shoulders. The shoulders though, You can tell which side they are because the the front facing side should have a little divot in it like that. And so it's the same thing with this model. You see that little divot right there? That means this is the left shoulder. To get these on though, you can take the CTToys one. The actual peg is separate. And sometimes you can just kind of push it out without heating it up. But it seems like this one's not gonna do it. So into the water it goes. And let that heat up for a second. Okay, let's see if that'll come apart now. I might have to reheat the water. Yeah, they don't really feel that warm. Oh no, it popped out. Okay, so you just push it through and eventually it'll pop right out like that. And the left and the right are the same, I believe. So you don't have to worry about getting them mixed up. I'm just gonna do the one though, since I'm not actually gonna use this for this guy. I just wanted to show it off a little bit. So you can take the new shoulder and pop this peg, or pop the ball joint through the bottom. Should be pretty loose there. And then once you get it kind of flush like that, just take your pliers and push it all the way in. And it should pop like that, and then you're good to go there. And once that's fully in, it should all work out pretty well. You can just pop. It's easier if you take this and stick it up like that, and then you can pop it in like that. But I'm gonna switch this back, and then, well, let me show you first how the arm goes on. So I found it's a lot easier if you just go ahead and pop this arm on like that. And then there should be a ball socket right there. Just line this up with that and push from the top down. And it should pop in just fine. All right, I'm gonna get the other arm on, and then I'll show off all the kits I have right now. So I completely neglected to add Batman Beyond in that beginning video. This base body is pretty much the same. The cutouts are the same as the Mafex mostly. So any pose you can get in the Mafex, you can get here as well. Added a little bit more room in the shoulders to actually get those fully across. I have more pictures of him in kind of some deep poses on my Instagram. I'm bad at posing, so it took me a while to do those. So just might check that out if you're interested in seeing kind of a few kind of poses you can get into. Some of the painted ones I'm a little bit more fragile, or I'm a little bit more gentle with, because they're a little bit more fragile. But let's go over kind of sales and what comes with each one. But we're gonna start with the base body. Of course, everything in gray is what it comes with. So both the arms, the ab, the chest, and the shin. All of my prices and shipping are limited to the US for now. I don't really have time to do all the paperwork and everything necessary to ship internationally. When I posted these on Cults 3D, you can get them there, and you can get them over on CG Trader as well. Those links are in my Instagram bio. But when I posted there, I made clear that anybody who wants to sell prints of these can sell them. So if you have somebody you like to buy prints from, you can ask them to buy the model and print some off for you. Or if you want to use any websites to print them, you can do that as well. I know there's a bunch of 3D printing websites, and there's a whole Reddit page dedicated to it. So if you live in a different country and you still want to get these, that would probably be the best way to go. It's going to be way cheaper than it would for me to ship it to you. Number two, all of my prints are printed in Rezion. Is it Rezion? Rezion? Tough 74 V2. I started using this here recently, and I like it a lot. It has a lot of flexibility. I don't know how to describe it. It has a little bit of flexibility, but it still feels solid. I printed this belt to test on a kit. It's just a plain belt, but you can see it's only 0.5 millimeter thick, and I can pretty much bend that either way, and it won't snap. I have pushed one of these. Let's see if I can push it all the way closed. Yeah, so I can completely flatten that like a rubber band, and it doesn't break. So once these are cured properly and everything, they are pretty tough. Like, It is more expensive though. So it's a little bit more expensive. That's why my prices are a little bit more expensive than if I was using just a cheaper resin. But these hold up a lot better. They offer more flexibility, less wear and rub. And overall, I just think it's better quality. So I'll have prices on my Instagram post. I got to figure out for sure what comes with each one and kind of divvy it off. But for right now, I'll show you what each one comes with. So, you know, the base body comes with chest, abs, forearms, shins. That'll be my cheaper option. So if you wanted to paint on your own logos or put stickers on or anything like that, this would be a good option for that. For Batman Beyond, my printer was messing up, so I didn't get everything printed. He comes with a belt. I'll try to throw maybe 2 belts in there just in case one breaks during assembly. But he comes with his belt. He comes with this hand. I made this extra hand that's holding a batarang. The batarang is sculpted into the hand, so you don't have to worry about popping out or anything like that. This is pretty fragile, so be really careful with this. But I'll make a right and a left. A right and left forearm with these spikes kind of sculpted on there. So he comes with both of those. He comes with his head sculpt, of course. Pretty basic head sculpt. This is the first head sculpt that I was attempting, so it's a little bit plain, I will admit, but comes with a head sculpt. Also, all of these printed pieces, I haven't done any kind of sanding or anything on them, so they will have these kind of nubs where the supports were. It just takes a lot more time for me to have to clean each one individually, and time equals money, so I'm trying to keep these on a cheaper side, but also I clean them and everything like that. I remove the support, so all you have to do is buy some 400 grit sandpaper. I just buy some sheets from Walmart or any kind of local hardware store should have it, but just take a sheet of 400 grit sandpaper. I just kind of rip a little piece off, and then you can come through and just sand all those areas smooth. You can do 400 grit, you can do 320 grit if you want. I usually do 400 then 600. Just don't go below 320 or you will leave a bunch of scratches and you won't be able to cover them up with paint. It comes with the ab piece, of course, the extended shins. These ones for sure you don't have to use if you don't want to, but this does make him as tall as the black suit Spider-Man. The last thing that he comes with is I made 3 chest options. So we have the smallest one, which is the one that's currently on him. It just looks a little bit more proportional to his body. That's kind of like this is what I liked on him. But I also made a kind of a medium version that extends a little bit higher up and lower down, but not overall too big. I wanted to keep it just on the chest, so I didn't have to do any I didn't have to do any shoulders or anything. And then I have like an extra large version that's like as big as I could fit on the chest. This is the biggest one I could fit on the chest. So large, medium, small. You can pick one if you want, and it'll make the kit cheaper for sure. But if you really want all 3, I'll sell you all 3. Or if you want the small and the large or something, we can work something out. But that's everything for Batman Beyond. Let's do Iron Spider next. I was talking about the Waldos multiple times now, but like I said, if you want them, I will sell them to you. No problem. I have the regular Waldos that I showed off. You get 3 of them. I did make another version of this initial piece that plugs into the body, because when I had this plugged in, it was coming off pretty far from the body, so that bend was starting really high up. So I made one that's the same length as what's on this amazing Yamaguchi, so it's a lot shorter and it'll match up to this better. But I'll include both piece number 1s, I guess you'd call them, or base pieces. But like I said, don't buy these unless you actually have to, because they're going to be kind of pricey because they take up an entire print bed just for one set. And so it takes like 5 or 6 hours to print them. So I'm trying to avoid printing those. So skip those unless you absolutely need them. But for the Iron Spider, for the rest of the kit, he comes with these shin pieces with a little bit of extra detail added to them. For the boots, his ab piece that has that detail sculpted in as well. He comes with this chest piece, and this chest piece does have the backpack sculpted on there, and the holes are made for those joints. But if you want joints to fit in, if they're too tight, you can heat this up a lot more and they'll eventually squeeze in. Like I said, this resin's a little bit more flexible than usual resins, and so it should be able to squeeze in if it's a little bit tight. If it's a little bit loose, I would suggest taking a little bit of electrical tape or something, or maybe a heat shrink tube. I like to use heat shrink tubes a lot, and you can add some thickness to your actual peg and get it in there. So there's just options to kind of, you'll have to do some adjustment depending on the Waldos you want to use. But I do have another version of this without the back piece, so it's just normal back on the back. Just like that on the back, just normal. So if you want the one without the backpack, just let me know and I can print that one instead. He also has his forearms with the sculpted detail on there, those like triangles, with his gloves, I guess. His shoulders, I showed him off earlier how to assemble them. He's the only kit I've made so far that has custom shoulders. And so these plug in just like I had shown, and comes with the right and a left, of course. And then his head sculpt. If you have troubles with the part that I printed, just let me know and I can send a replacement pretty easily. So that's everything for Iron Spider. Alright, next is Invincible. So I have two options for Invincible. You have the, I don't know if I call it the Season 3 look, the blue and black look, but we have that one, and then we have his Season 1 look with the included knee pads. These are sculpted onto the actual shins, not a separate piece, so they do look a little bit strange whenever he bends like that, but I think that's how it is in the show, maybe? I don't know, maybe they move with his legs in the show. But that was the best way I found to actually do it. But with Invincible, I have 3 head sculpts I made. I wanted to add some variety to the head, so I made 3 separate expressions. We have like an angry head sculpt, a smiling head sculpt, just more of a neutral head sculpt. We can make a plan for whatever you want. So if you want multiples of the heads, that's fine. We can do that. For the chest sculpt, they look the same nearly, but I don't know why I did that. They look the same nearly, but for the yellow and black and blue, the Season 1 look, I did add a nice, I try to add a cutout there that separates the blue from the black, so it's just easier to paint. You can have a nice line there when you're painting. And also he has this triangle on his back that's blue. I didn't know what size to make it. In some reference photos, it goes like all the way down his back. Some reference photos, it's pretty high up. So I tried to meet it somewhere in the middle. It's about almost midway down his back. Added an extra sculpt line for that. So that's the Season 1 chest. And then the Season 3 chest is the same minus those sculpt lines. So no sculpt underneath the pec and no sculpt for the triangle on the back. The ab piece, they're both the same. They have the same details and everything, so both exactly the same. And then, of course, the shins for the Season 1 look. The knee pads are actually sculpted onto the shin, and these are on there pretty good, so they shouldn't break or go anywhere. I tried to make them pretty attach pretty well, so there shouldn't be any breaking here, but still be careful with them. It's always possible. And if he takes a shelf dive, I don't know if they'll survive, but they might. Hopefully they will. For the Season 3 look, I just added a line for where his boot details go. Same thing for the forearms as well. They're both exactly the same in both suits. I added a little bit of a divot and a little raised edge there for painting. When you put an order through, I'll try to go to the post office probably something like every Friday maybe, or every Wednesday. I'll try to go at least once a week, maybe twice sometimes, just depending on how work's going, because I have a full-time job, so it's sometimes kind of difficult to just get up and leave and go to the post office. I'm trying to get ahead of it by printing off a bunch of them, so I should be good to go ahead and ship. But if you message me over on Instagram, make sure to just let me know what you want. So if you want Invincible, you just want Season 3, you want all 3 head sculpts, perfect. Just send that to me and I'll send you the price. Season 1 and Season 3, and you only want 4 head sculpts, you want 2 neutral, a smiling and angry, perfect. Just let me know what you want and I'll send it. I would prefer PayPal probably for me and you, so if you want to send it goods and services, maybe add like $1 or $2 on there. That would be awesome to your total, so that can cover the fees. If you want to sell my prints, if you have a store front or something where you sell 3D printed parts or customs and stuff like that, let me know, reach out to me, because I would prefer somebody else sell all of this stuff versus me selling it all. We can work out a deal. Like I said, if you buy my stuff on CG Trader or Colts 3D, you can sell it all you want. Just don't sell the actual 3D models. But I would like to have somebody that I can point to sell people kits in the future, just because now I'm gonna have to run these for a while, and so I'm not gonna be able to work on as much stuff as I would like to. I would like to find somebody who does good quality stuff to actually sell these for me, and maybe I can work with somebody and put out some designs through them early before I put the models up, or try to send stuff to them that it's not, as I make new stuff, send it to them that I know doesn't need to be tested, so they can have the model already up for sale and have some cool stuff. Maybe I can make exclusive models, I don't know. I'd like to work with the seller so that way I can free up my printer and not have to do this all the time. But so if you're selling stuff, let me know, reach out to me, and but just let me know what you think about this. If you have suggestions and it's not something weirdly specific, I've gotten a few that are just oddly like, I want this character from this panel on this comic book. Probably not gonna do that, I'm beyond. But if you want something that seems kind of cool, if I'm into it, sure, I'll try to make it. So just let me know if you have any cool suggestions. Check out my Instagram for prices and more information that's not just like a rambled mess. Sorry if this video was kind of insane. I didn't think about that I've taken these apart a million times, so it seems really simple to me, but the more people that asked me how to actually assemble these, I was like, yeah, I probably need to put out a video. So I'm trying to kind of get this in line with when I'll actually be starting to make these kits to send, and so I just wanted to get this out pretty quick. So that's why it's kind of a jumbled mess currently. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you're keeping up with me if you want to see more cool stuff like this. But like I said, reach out if you have any ideas that seem cool, and thanks for watching again, guys. Bye.